The famous verse, Surah 2, verse 62. Indeed, inna alladhina amanu, those who believe, wa alladhina hadu, and those who guide, which is actually meaning the Jews, wal nasara, and the Nazarenes, whatever Nazarene means. We've got a big discussion on that, the meaning in the Quran. I think it means really, if you look at the Quranic text, it genuinely refers to some kind of Hasidic dynasty, maybe exilarch sort of family, the Hasidic Jews as opposed to other Jews. Well, al-Sabi'in, and the Sabians, and there's the Tzadi, men who believed, or whoever, Amana, whoever believes billah, or billah, in Allah, wal yom al-akhri, and the last day, when amila salihan, and do good deeds, righteous deeds, falahum, so for them, ajruhum, their reward, inda, is with rabbihim, with their Lord, wala, and no khawfun, and no fear upon them, alayhim, wala hum yahzunan, yahzanuna, so, and they will not grieve. Okay, so that's it. So they have nothing to fear, neither shall they grieve. So the Sabians are mentioned here. Now, when we say Sabians here, it's distinguishing them from a few other groups. And this word, if we click on it, you'll see appears a few more times in the Quran with similar verses, almost the same as in Surah 5, verse 69. You're going to have a look at that one too. Oops. Indeed, again, it's almost exactly the same. The only difference is a grammatical structure. Indeed, those who believe and those who became Jews, or indeed, alladhina amanu, alladhina hadu, wa al-sabi'una, and the Sabians, wa nasra, and the Nasra, men amana, whoever believes, billah, wal yawm al-akhir, and do good deeds, and no fear is upon them, and they shall not grieve. Almost exactly the same. Just the word order is different, and the grammar is slightly different. It's sabi'un instead of sabi'in. And then we have the last reference to them in the Quran here, verse 22, which helps us as well. And it distinguishes them in this case. I have to go word by word again. It distinguishes them from other groups as well. It says, indeed, inna alladhina amanu, indeed those who believe, walladhina hadu, again, always it says, those who believe and those who guide. Those who believe and those who guide. Those who guide is the Jews. Hadu is Jews in the Quran. As opposed to al-Yahud, which is meaning Judaizers, different group. They are the Karaites, or the Sadducee types. They're not Jews. Also mean Judases as well, al-Yahud. But it's not the phrase alladhina hadu, which is a different word. So we have to be very precise and not just clump all these words together. There is different words for different groups, and it's very clear that the Jews are those who guide. This is meaning referred to the Pharisees, and we know that because of the verse which actually talks about Moses being the first Jew, as opposed to Abraham in this sense with this word. And that is because Moses was the one who was reduced to Pharisee Judaism by Jethro, and so the tradition comes from there. All right, that's the Phariseeism as opposed to just the Torah. The Torah is revealed at Mount Sinai and is given to this Pharisaical group which Moses has joined, as opposed to just any other Hebrews, specifically to be interpreted from the Pharisaical perspective. So it says, and those who believe and those who are Jews, al-Sabi'in again, wa al-Nasara, And here it says, وَالْمَجُوسِ, and the Magians, وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا. So, those who commit shirk, the polytheists. Indeed, Allah will judge between them on the day of resurrection. Indeed, Allah over all things is a witness. So we know that the Sabians there are distinguished from a few other groups. First of all, they're not polytheists. That's clear, because the polytheists are specified differently. Also, we know the Sabians are not Majus, because the Majus are specified differently. So they're not Magians and they're not polytheists. They're not Nasara, who in the Quran are people who regard any Messiah as God's son. That's the distinguishing thing about the Nasara in the Quran. And they have taken their teachers as lords instead of God and the Messiah, Jesus, the son of Mary. So we know that Nasara are not really Christians, although it's interpreted that way. And they're distinguished from Jews, and they're distinguished from Alladhina Amanu, believers. So there's a distinction between believers, Jews, Sabians, Nasara, Majus, and Mushrikun. And though they're all different. Mushrikun, Majus, Sabian, Nasara, Jew, and believer. 6 types of people are distinguished here. It's inconceivable, it's inconceivable that the Quran would not mention Christians, proper Christians, somewhere in the Quran. It's inconceivable. And yet we have the word which is used for Christians these days is Nasara, because it sounds like Nazarenes, and everybody assumes that Nazarenes are Christians. But if you follow this channel, you'll understand that not all Nazarenes are Christians. Nazarene just is basically a tribal group, a clan group. People who descend from the house of David were all Nazarenes. Some of them were Orthodox Jews, some of them were apostates, some of them had become Sadducees, some of them had become pagans. You could be a Buddhist and a Nazarene. You could become anything you like in a Nazarene. You could be a Gnostic. You could be Hasidic. There are many different types of Nazarene. Why anybody would assume that they all mean Christian is just basically because of one thing and one thing only, and that is Christian hegemony. There are 2 billion Christians in the world. They dictate what Nazarene means. And, get lost everybody else who has a different opinion, because you're in a minority and your opinion doesn't matter, right? Even if you're Jews. So the word Nazarene, really, Nasra, in Arabic, Netzarim in Hebrew, refers to the branches of the scions of the house of David. But because of the dominance of the Christians, we have abandoned use of that term now, and we tend to use different phrases. But that's the correct historical meaning of the word. So then where are the Christians proper? I mean, it's clear from the verses on the Nasra. It says that the Nasra, very clearly, this is the easiest one to look at if we look at the verses on Nasra. Go to chapter 9. Here, look at this. This is a perfect example of why this word certainly doesn't mean Christian. It says that the Christians say, they're not Christians, the Nasra say, the translated is Christian here, the Nasra say, Al-Masih ibn Allah. That means they say that the king, or the Messiah, is God's son. Now that sounds like, okay, it must be Christians, right? Because Christians say the Messiah is the son of God. Well, no. Every Jew would agree that the Messiah is the son of God. And because, all Jews are children of God. And the Messiah is no different. So it's not a specifically Christian thing. But what we're seeing here is that there's a group which distinguish the Messiah as the son of God from this verse, the previous verse. It says the Jews, it's actually Al-Yahud in this case, Judaizers, say that an Uzair, this is Ezra, but it doesn't mean Ezra the prophet. It means Ezra, the Hebrew word means a homeborn Jew, somebody born of Jewish parents. And Ezra, and this is singular form, so it's an Ezra, is God's son. But the Christians, and this is in contrast, it says the Christians, actually Nasara, what Nasara say, Al-Masih ibn Allah. So it's making a distinction between the Nasara, who say only the Messiah is the son of God, from the Judaizers, who say only a homeborn Jew is the son of God. And the Jews would say anyone who keeps the laws of Noah can be a son of God. It's not a unique thing only for the homeborn Jews. So Jews have got one opinion, the Judaizers have a different opinion, and this specific group says, no, only the Messiah is the son.